Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature, Glacier National Park, Stories from the Trail, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Jeremy Covert. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Jeremy. I'm going to hand things off to you.
Thank you, Kendall, and welcome everyone. It is both my pleasure and my honor to be talking to you all today, January 4th, for the first and best thus far webinar of the year, I'm sure, since it is the first one. And today we're going to start off, stories from the Dusty Trail, Glacier Water International Peace Park. And we're coming from the Deerwood Estate Studios, my home in Louisville, Kentucky. And let's just get started. So, yes, my name is Jeremy Covert, MFA, born Louisville, Kentucky. I have lived out west most of my life, but found myself this past year in Louisville with our recent unpleasantness, kind of stuck here. So we bought a home here. We've been hanging out with friends and family. It's been great. Well, socially distantly great. So I'm an expedition leader, photographer, and writer. And my favorite place, if you do not know that by now, is Glacier National Park. I have another webinar on it. Please do look it up. We talk extensively about a lot of stuff. I'll go over a couple of those topics today. And once again, Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby, very cool, artsy city, very progressive. I accredit Louisville, Kentucky with my background in the arts and photography, and it is home to the world's largest baseball bat. Actually, I don't know if it is, but it's super huge, as you see in that picture. So here we have I have a few recommendations that I'd like to start some of the slideshows with. First off, a little shameless self-promotion. My website, podcast, and a few other things, lifeonvacation.com. Go check it out after the webinar. I hope that you enjoy it. I have a podcast which will be posting new episodes weekly throughout 2021. It's going to be stories, gear reviews, skill set reviews, and a few minutes of nature sounds at the end to inspire you to go out in the wilderness yourself, maybe have some of these experiences, those positive experiences. So there are written stories on there, photo essays, and a ton of photos. And a lot of those are from NatHab trips. Please do check it out. Let me know what you think. Put a lot of work into it. And my book is hopefully going to be published here coming shortly. So I've got some other recommendations. First, phenomenal stories in Rick McIntyre's epic series of books that he's got. First, you can start with American Wolf. I've talked about The Rise of Wolf 8 before. Given it to many of you all on trips. He came out with this new book, The Reign of Wolf 21, absolutely amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. If you have not done the Yellowstone trip, go there, go to the Lamar Valley, absolutely amazing, love it. So you can check those things out. Through the recent unpleasantness, we have a lot of time to read, I think. So also another wonderful film, which I just saw this past week, I could not recommend it enough, Public Trust. It's a Patagonia film done by Robert Redford and Yvonne Chart. If you care about wildlife and wild places, it talks about public lands and what is happening to them right now. It is a very contemporary movie. I cannot recommend it enough. And ask yourself, do you care about wildlife? Do you care about the wilderness and these wild places? Well, if you do, you should act accordingly, vote accordingly, and really do some research both at the local level, the state level, and the national level, and really put your best foot forward and do what is best for all of us and do what is best for the children of the future, and really, really put your money and your mouth where your morals are. Really, really. So wow, that got a little heavy there. So let's have some not so heavy recommendations. A book, since we do have all this time here at the house, some of us are homebound, some of us not working. A book, one of my favorites, it's a classic, and we all know the definition of a classic is a book that you wish that you had read, but you don't actually want to read. Well, these are great classics that you will want to read and watch. In The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Shoulders. It's absolutely great sailing spy novel book. It is accredited with inventing the spy novel genre. I think it was written in like 1913, so I can't remember exactly. But an early book, Erskine Shoulders was actually executed for treason and spying, but he was later cleared. But it is a wonderful, wonderful book. Cannot recommend it enough. Very exciting. Pass that around to friends and family if you do get it. And then a film near and dear to my heart. I used to have to get a classic movie for every movie that I wanted to rent when I was young, my family. And Harvey, starring Jimmy Stewart, originally a play. And the movie is charming and very heartwarming, and it's classic, which young and old can enjoy. So maybe you can watch it at your house, talk about it with your children or friends or family or grandchildren, whatever, have them watch it too. Can't recommend it enough. And Harvey, as we all know, is about Jimmy Stewart and his relationship with the puka, which you're all animal experts. Puka is a 6 foot large, giant invisible rabbit. And on that note, I want to show my new little puka here. That's right, Stevie Nicks, cutest dog in the world. Oh, good dog, Stevie. And you can see her here. I just adopted this little Karen Terrier. She's a rescue. She's scared of her own shadow. I've had her a couple months now. She's obsessed with me. She follows me everywhere. I don't know what's going to happen when I actually start going on trips again. But she is a wonderful little dog. Can't say enough about the Karen Terrier species. Does not shed, very quiet, really loving, love it. So, first, let's have a little an hors d'oeuvre. I love the Yellowstone appetizers. A few slides of what we wish we were all doing right now, rather than being homebound or not being able to go to work. First, we should all be coming down from our wonderful experiences in Churchill. I know. This is what we should be seeing, and a little bit of this action. And then we're all like, oh my gosh, that was too much. And then we have a great holiday season. And then we're able to go to Yellowstone and visit with friends. Guys, come visit us there and see these wonderful thermal features, the amazing access, unparalleled access throughout the free world, really. It's the largest temperate intact ecosystem on the planet. Unbelievable. That's where we should all be right now. Unfortunately, we can't. And, with all of this, I just want to talk about a few things that I miss, because it may not be what you think I do. And first off, so one of the things I miss the most are those early mornings. I meet you guys a lot of times for breakfast, and I'm up 45 minutes to an hour plus, beforehand, running around. I get to see these amazing sunrises. I experienced some of those with you all, like telling my friend Jeff here, like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a great sunrise tomorrow morning. I come out, he's already out there shooting. I let him borrow my tripod. He gets some great shots. And those are some of the unexpected things. I tell this on every one of my trips, like, you should go out to sunrise tomorrow morning, but most people choose to sleep in, have a nice relaxed breakfast. You're on vacation, I understand it, but these are one of the things that I miss, these tiny little moments that we have on these trips. And then, of course, getting to meet all of you all, having these, after a great day of hiking or seeing animals or whatever, having beverages of your choice at a nice hotel or restaurant or something, and meeting people. And, one of my favorite things about this job, and I'm not being cheesy here, this is real life, I talk about this a lot, is sharing these places with you all. These amazing places that, some of the best places in North America, really, that I get to work. And who can say that when they do their job correctly, that this is how people react? Like, you get your car fixed, do you come out and do double fist pumps, raise your arms above your head like this? No, you don't do that. I am so blessed to get to do this. When I do my job correctly, this is what happens in the end. So wonderful. I feel so lucky to do it. And, I also get to meet new wonderful people like Greg and Nancy here. Like this past summer in Yellowstone, we had an amazing trip, shot some amazing photos. And not only, new guests, but, old friends I work with, like Corbin Hawkins. He is an ops crew member, but he's also a world famous guide himself. And really wonderful people that we get to work with in the company, friends. And then, of course, Bonnie in Churchill, everybody's met and seen her. If you have seen one of her presentations, she is absolutely hilarious, a wonderful speaker, a wealth of knowledge, awesome. And her family are some of the first people who actually created the tourism industry in Churchill. So we get to meet these amazing, one-of-a-kind people in these areas, like my good friend Ernie Heavy Runner in Glacier National Park, right outside on the Blackfeet Reservation. In Browning. He gets to talk to us at every single presentation that we or trip that we run, and he actually gets to have a lunch and dinner with us sometimes too. He's an amazing person, and we are lucky to get to have him, and I really miss my buddy there. I also miss the waterfalls and the wind that they place, blowing my hat off and completely soaking me in seconds. I miss the alpine flowers, even the little tiny ones like the elephant head here. These little tiny ones that grow, these alpine meadows on these rocky cliffs, like the rainbow flowers here. I miss all the stuff that we get to see. Look at how many birds we get to see. You can tell Gene Lawrence was on this trip. This is the amount of birds that were on this sheet here. And but really, truly amazing, the access to wilderness that we get in these places. I even miss the signs. When you see things like this, warnings for these animals, you are in a very special place. And of course, I miss my animal friends, the goats, the bears, even the little tiny grizzly right there. Actually, even though he's chasing me right now, I'm scared. He's just curious about what's going on, hopefully. And this, my brother shot this picture up at Logan Pass. Just getting to see and have this access, absolutely so lucky. And here we have Michael, one of our favorite Tundra Rover drivers, taking a picture. You know, you only get these experience when you get to, you come to these places, and then Michael and I really realize how special these experiences are, because something like this happens like once a season, once every other season. These are rarities, and those rarities are the things that I miss. And even the adventure things, when stuff goes wrong, like at the Mini Glacier Hotel, we lose power. Those are even great little adventures, and you have to kind of tweak the schedule a little bit, just kind of roll with it. And then the adventures where you can't plan, things like this, like when people are sledding, we're up at Logan Pass. This was on an NADAP trip. Some kids on our trip were like, can we slide down? I said, well, we've never, yeah, let's do it. And so we borrowed some plastic bags that people have brought up there, and we slid down, and kids, young and old, laughing hysterically, having the time of their life. Those are some of the things that I miss with friends. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about stories from the Dusty Trail. And today's stage for these stories, Glacier National Park. And as we all know, Glacier up on the Montana-Canada border, you can see there. And then you see Montana, the state, at the bottom here, and then the map of Glacier on the left. And I'm just going to go over a few major primer points of why Glacier is so special. It's an ecotone, so a mixture of different ecosystems. You have the Pacific Northwest maritime climate, the Southern Rockies, the Northern Rockies, and the Great Plains. All of those ecosystems kind of meshing together. So plants and animal species, all from those places, come together right in Glacier. And every mile you get outside of Glacier, it becomes distinctly more that ecosystem. So it is a melting pot, and right on those fringes, as our good friend Native Man Ginther says, and those ecotones where you have boundary pushers, just like people, those boundary pushing people, those are some of the most interesting places to visit on the planet, just like those boundary pushing people are some of the most interesting ones. And then here is our glacier trip that we do with NatHab, and the reason I'm showing this slide, where we're going to be talking about today. You see all those highlighted areas where we go on the trip. Well, today we're going to be talking about a few places where there are no highlighted lines. We're going to be going up to Kentla Lake and the Browns Pass Trail through Hole in the Wall in the top left section of the park. And then we're going to be over on the right northern section in the very deep backcountry today for a couple of our stories. And then our final story, we're going to be down from St. Mary on the east side, which is where we do go. And then we're going to hike through the backcountry down to Medicine. And we have some interesting experiences on that little hike. So join me at today's trailhead. A few other things that are great about Glacier, as I've shown this slide in my other webinar, but I like to, really say it. In Kentucky, it's nice. It was a really nice day. I just walked with Stevie Nicks here, and it was a really beautiful day out today. But we live here in Kentucky, where you see this is the entire biomass on the left of mammals on the surface of the earth here. And so we live in a place where humans and farmed livestock live here. And we have little tiny parks, but they are very, very segmented, and they have a lot of invasive species, and a lot of the wild animals that were there are gone from there. The places we're talking about today, and my favorite places, Yellowstone, up into Canada, Glacier, Churchill, these are places where all of these wild animals still exist, and not too much of us still exist there also. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Glacier here, the Sunrise. The bison on the east side of the park, Blackfeet Reservation, grizzly 80 feet off the road in Mini Glacier, the crystal clear waters, and all that glacial till from the glaciers pulverizing all the minerals and having them suspended in the water. The dark sky park of Glacier, so you can see the Milky Way, unprecedented, brings people to tears because they've never seen it in their life. They're like, what are these clouds in the sky? And I say, those are not clouds. That is the Milky Way, and they are moved to their core. That beautiful water with all this red and blue argillite, ancient mudstone. And then the road, bisecting Glacier National Park itself, really, really special destination just to see that road. It's absolutely amazing. Even when it's stormy, even when it's raining, the pictures are just different, absolutely still amazing. Sometimes you see more animals when it's like this, because think about it, all these animals are wearing giant fur coats, they get really hot just like we do. So when it's rainy, they come out. Avalanche Lake, right here on the Continental Divide, see Grinnell Glacier, and it coming out, and you can see where the mountains meet the prairie. Giant abduction, mountains went up on top of the prairie there, was eroded away, and that right there is what Glacier is. And so that's why you have these giant jagged peaks right next to the prairie like that. Absolutely amazing, and I cannot recommend enough. It's a place where the largest concentration and most wolverines still hang out, only 40 to 60. This is a really, really animals depend on wilderness and massive, massive ranges. And when people move in, they move out. There's a lot of them in Canada, not so many, only 200 to 300 in the lower 48. Glacier has 40 to 60 of them. The meltwater stonefly, definitely threatened because they live directly below glaciers, and those glaciers, with climate warming and changing, they are going away. So that was a lot talking about where we are setting the stage for. So let's get on to some meat stories. 2 terrifying moose encounters. I want to say these did not happen on a NatHab trip. They happened on a backpacking. 2 happened on a backpacking trip. The 3rd story is a backpacking trip also from the backcountry, but they were stories that I thought you guys might enjoy. So what is a moose? Well, it is the largest ungulate, largest animal in the deer species, the deer family. But the way that I describe it is the moose is 1 part giant beast, 1 part racehorse, and 1 part completely unpredictable. That's right, a gigantic, beastly, unpredictable racehorse. And I've been to the Kentucky Derby like 12, 13 times. I've been very close to the horses when they're running. That is what the moose reminds me of. Let's see what that looks like. Well, here we are. Join me in 2013. A young, naive Jeremy is working in Glacier, and I am trained backpacking guide, also doing some whitewater rafting trips and day hikes, and really loving life, and teaching college art classes at the time also. And I'm asked one day, I'm outside, I'm just doing some routine maintenance at the end of the season. It's early September, and my boss comes out and he rifles out some words. I'm hosing down some stuff, cleaning it. He says, "You want to go do this and backpack into the backcountry?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Whatever it is." Uh-oh. He thinks here's somebody at the door. See, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I think my sister's dropping off some stuff for us. But so where were we? So young, naive Jeremy's out cleaning boats, and the boss yells something. "You want to go into the backcountry, backpack in and bring somebody back?" I say, "Yeah, sure." So I go in a few hours later, find out exactly what I need to do, and there's a gentleman who is having trouble going up over these high mountain passes, and he's having trouble breathing, and he's really slowing the group down. They have one more big pass to do, and he is really concerned about slowing the group down, and he does not want to go in. And so the guy calls the main office, and they say, we need somebody to hike in and get this guy out. And so I'm the volunteer that goes in. And so I'll be going in about this day, 16, 17 miles into the backcountry in one day. So I find out about this about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I have to pack that evening for about 3.5 days worth of food, because we don't know the actual condition of this guy. They just called on the sat phone. And it was a brief conversation, just letting us know exactly what needed to happen. And so I have to pack a tremendous amount of stuff, and then I have to wake up really early the next morning, and then drive 3+ hours up to the northeast section of the park, actually where we go to the Chief Joseph border crossing station, and that's the parking lot to go into the Causey Valley and to Causey Lake and Mokawanas Junction area campground is where I'm hiking in one day. This is a massive single-day hike solo, and I drive over there, and really, really lucky. This is where I'm in the area. The Belly River is what this is called in this area, and I have a nice little lunch here. You can see I'm just making sure that I am timing it correctly. I'm checking out the map. You see my little apple there I'm having for lunch. I have a nice little lunch packed, and still on schedule. And so I'm hiking in, and this is really, most of the backpacking trips I've done at this point, I've been guiding my whole life at this point, but I'm always with people. I rarely have gone on any backpacking trips by myself, only a couple when I was in college actually, and they were only like 2-3 miles round trip. Well, this day I'm hiking in 16, 17 miles solo into some very remote wilderness and into what I know is a Bermuda Triangle and a lot of moose with interesting, habits. And so I am, needless to say, a little concerned. And so this would be a picture of what I would look like at the time, exactly, so naive, so young. And I am hiking in, and it is a beautiful day. It is a very hot day, and really enjoying myself. And so I head in, and I do this thing where, when I'm hiking, I'm always calling out because, a bear, a big bear, 700-pounder, can lay down in 18, 20 inches of grass right next to the trail, and maybe not hanging out to attack someone, but just hiding there to get some rest. And so you want to call out if you're ever hiking in these types of places. You want to give warnings. And what people do is they will say, hey bear, hey bear. Well, I don't like to do that because, if other people are around, when I say bear, and especially on my trips, I say this on NatHab trips, every trip that I lead, you don't want to say bear unless you see a bear, because sometimes you only have a few seconds to look at that bear. And so if you're always saying bear and someone says bear, then everyone's thinking maybe they're just saying, hey bear, and they miss the sight of that bear. And sometimes, these grizzlies are very elusive, and that can be the only time in their life that they're gonna have that opportunity. So I say only say the word bear if you see a bear. So I'm doing my normal thing of just calling out my family members' names, Sarah, Josh, Dad, and then also trying to remember songs from my youth. And most of the time, what I prefer to sing are old Neil Diamond songs, 68 to 72 era Neil Diamond, and that is scientifically proven to drive animals away. And I just try to remember, some of the words of these songs. And so I am hiking, and I am near Cosley Lake. I know this, and we are late in the afternoon, and I am, I said, da-na-na-na-na, and I'm singing through the backcountry like a moron. I run into other hikers, only a couple throughout the entire day. And at one point, I'm singing and I'm hiking, and then all of a sudden I am in what it looks like just totally open understory here. And I notice there's a couple shrubs down by Cosley Lake on my left, couple bushes here on the right, but they're not big enough to hold a bear or a moose. I'm not even worried about it. I'm just kind of singing, trying to remember, a few of the verses in between the refrain. And then all of a sudden, my world is literally rocked. The shrub that is not too large directly next to me explodes. And I mean directly next to me. And the earth shakes. And I do exactly what most people do in that situation. I completely panic and trying to get out my bear spray that's attached to my backpack in my belt. At the exact time, I just cringe and I hunker down, and I think what a lot of other people think in those moments is, oh my gosh, my dad was right. I am going to be a guy in a glacier, get attacked by a bear. And as the ground shook, I have both of my eyes squinted, but directly behind me, I see a wall of fur, quite literally, this tall, a wall of fur charge by me. And then it runs into the other shrub, and then it is silent. And I continue to scurry down the trail another 30 plus feet, get my camera out, which is the next thing you're supposed to do directly after you get your bear spray out in a situation like this. So I get my camera out and I look, and the shrub, the giant shrub is there. It's all silent, it's dead still, and I'm huffing and puffing in the camera and recording, and I'm like, I think a giant moose just charged me. And moose don't just charge right at you like a bear. They'll charge right next to you. Sometimes they'll charge right at you and then run away. But what they typically do, in my experience, because this has happened a couple of times to me now, they will run right next to you. And so that moose in the shrubs next to me, not liking Neil Diamond, charged out into the shrubs. And then I run 30 feet down the trail, have the camera on, and what you hear me saying is, through deep breaths, I think there's a moose in this giant shrub here. And then keep in mind, this shrub is the size of a bus, like the Tundra Rovers in Churchill, a full school bus. It's massive. And I am like, there silently, I think it just ran into that shrub. I'm pretty sure this really just happened. And right then, when I am saying this, all of a sudden the giant shrub shakes back and forth as the moose inside of it is thrashing around telling me, dude, you're still way too close to me. So the next shot on the camera is me running and laughing. You can see the actual camera running in the video. Maybe I'll try to put that together in a little film for you guys on another presentation. And so I run down the trail, and I am able, as the moose comes out of the shrubs, goes down into the lake and starts to feed. Their main jam is aquatic grasses, of course. And I am able to have this amazing little experience where there are this just me and this moose and the wilderness of Glacier National Park surrounding me. And this moose is not just any moose in Glacier. This moose is infamous. It's an old bull, and I have actually heard of this moose before. When they get really old, when when their antlers start to grow, they will rub down a lot of the tines off of it. So it's just these two large paddles, and an older bull learns how to do that. And this bull is ornery, and he is infamous for harassing hikers. And on this day, the hiker he harassed was me. I understand me running through his house. What would you do to someone? They charge through your living room screaming, that music. Of course, you're going to get upset also. And so I had this wonderful experience for a few minutes. And as you can see here, you can see the sunset is happening. And then I had to hightail it to the Mokewanis Junction area campground and meet my the guy who I'm supposed to be rescuing. It turns out this like 75-year-old man is in better shape than I am. He runs marathons at sea level, but the medication that he was on was really causing him to be lightheaded and much slower over these mountain passages that they had done several of already. And so I had to take all of his heavy gear, and it took us 2 days to hike out. Although it was an amazing trip, he regretted not being able to do it, but he felt like it was the right choice because he did not want to slow down the group. And it was a great trip for me to be able to go in and have these experiences. But of course, I want everybody to do the full trip. Now, this is a different scenario, okay? And I want to tell this to everyone from the beginning, and I will say this at the end. Do not approach a moose. That is never a good idea. Do not approach any wild animal. Adhere to the rules and the laws of the National Park Service and any park. Say 100 yards from the predators. Say 50 yards, say 60 yards, say 30 yards. Whatever the park rules are for these animals, they are there to protect us, and they are there to protect the animal also. If this animal harms you, park may have to go out and euthanize the animals. So don't think of it as just saving yourself. Think of it as doing your part to save these animals also. So here we are on the mini glacier trail, this giant bull moose. I come up, there's like 60 people on this trail, and as a guide, I get to go straight to the front of the line and say, like, look, what's going on here? I see the moose, and I'm like, okay, well, we're just gonna give it some time. I'm yelling at the moose. I have 2 cans of bear spray out, and I'm telling everybody to get back, and we're just gonna be patient. This guy's just being on the trail, just being kind of a bully. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes up and starts to approach the moose. And he says, I'll handle this. And I'm like, sir, please do not approach the moose. Sometimes the moose will not only charge you, but it will actually charge through you and then into a massive group of people, which has happened before. So I am begging him, pleading with him, sir, please do not do that. And he turns and says, I'm from Alaska. I do this all the time. And I'm like, sir, please no. And tell everybody to get back. He does charge up to the moose, and it runs away scared. Do not repeat this, my friends. If you see someone doing this, go the other way. Maybe get some film of it from far away, but do not repeat this. Moose are a very volatile animal, very unpredictable. Okay, so enough about that. We will talk a little bit more about that later. So here we are. I've talked briefly about this, and I was asked to tell the full story. So this is a trip over Browns Pass. So this is in a northwest section of the park, very remote. Very few roads even to get into it. We came in through Bowman Lake, went up around Browns Pass, over Hole in the Wall, over Boulder Pass, and then down to Kintla. An absolutely unbelievable trip, once in a lifetime trip for people. I've been able to do it a couple times myself. I cannot recommend it enough. It's kind of a brutal hike. It's backpacking, and it's not level. I'll say that. Very not level. I will say that. It's a lot of vertical up and a lot of vertical down, but the views you get are unbelievable. And as you can see here, the landscape is really unique. I have just a couple horrible photos because on these backpacking trips, I don't carry cameras because the weight is so much. So I had little point and shoots that I got a couple of these shots with. And so here we are on this day, and actually this was a big safety day because we had a person on the trip who refused to drink water because their partner was a researcher saying that Americans are overhydrated, and we just fought tooth and nail the entire time for me begging them to drink water. I've made a lot of extra food for them because when you're really thirsty, you also feel like you're very hungry, and so please drink more water than you think you need to on these types of trips. And it actually came to a head where they could not continue. We had to do kind of a rescue. Take all their weight, have a big water party, and get them to drink as much water as they could. They apologized for it. They felt really bad, but it happened, really. So that's not the moral of the story, though. Just a little side note. So here we are. We hike up, and this is early August, brutal hot, brutal hot. And even you can see here, it's hot. This is early morning, but we have every article of clothing on we possibly can because Bruce, as you can see, he is not just joking when he has his coffee cup inside of his little bug head net there. No, the bugs up there are legendary and they are very bad, very bad. And so literally you cannot, most of the season up there when you can hike, you can't even eat up there because there's so many bugs. And so here we all are, and basically what I do on these days is make hot drinks for everybody in the mornings, and then we would eat some granola bars. We hike down the trail about an hour and a half where we get a large ridge line. looking down over a hole in the wall, a beautiful place. Look it up online, some images of it. And then I would stop and make a really nice brunch for everyone because the wind up there typically blows a lot of mosquitoes away. And so here we are, and I am trying to regale everyone. And this is actually only 5 of the people. Another young couple is actually up at their tent still. And I am regaling everybody with jokes and funny stories, trying to keep the mood high, you know, because one, we have like a huge day today, one of the biggest days you could possibly have in the park, 20+ miles, some serious up and serious down on that, up and over Boulder Pass. And so I'm trying to keep spirits high. I'm telling my best jokes, telling my best stories, and I am over here at one point on the right side of the frame by the far pole. These poles are what you hang your food in to keep bears away from. So bear hanging system right there. So I'm by the far pole and I'm regaling everybody with a story and I'm right to the punchline of it. And I'm like, and then, and I just stop frozen in terror. This woman in the green jacket's like hanging on my everywhere. And she's like, yes, yes. And I say, no one move. There is a gigantic moose right behind you. And she laughs, thinking part of the story, like, and then turns around like, oh, and there is a gigantic bull moose literally right on the other side of where you see that white little sign there with the don't step on sign. And the moose had snuck up, unbelievably so. Now keep in mind, all wild animals are ninjas. They have to be ninjas to survive because the bears and all the predators are ninjas and they're dead silent also. So the prey animals have to be ninjas also, be able to sneak through this landscape. Even these massive moose with these huge, huge racks can sneak through this landscape unseen and unheard by us. I've walked by multiple moose feet away. They've just been standing right on the edge of the trail, just looking at me as I walk by. I'm like, oh my God, and they keep everybody going as fast as we can. So this is one of those instances. Well, on this day, there was something a little bit different going on. This moose was a heavily habituated moose, which I had not heard about yet, but I would hear about afterwards, and had been chasing backcountry hikers out of this camp and eating their food. So I immediately clear everyone out of the kitchen. There's some yelling, I have bear spray and some stomping of feet. The moose runs up the trail in the direction of our tents. And so I go up after it, watch it. It goes past the pit toilet area, up into the forest. And I'm like, okay, everybody, this is a throw and go moment. Just grab your stuff, throw it in your backpack. You are not packing anything. We're going to run down the trail like 15, 20 minutes, and then we're going to pack there. And so, you know, we are grabbing everything we own. Bruce here and his son right there to the right, the guy without the mask on there, the first 2 that are ready. Their stuff is almost already packed. So they come down and they say, Jeremy, what can we do to help? And I said, actually, guys, if you want to go back up trail towards the pit toilet and just stand there and look and be very aware, and if you see that moose, immediately call out and immediately come back to the tent area or the kitchen area here. So they head up. We have these 2 sentinels. I am literally, you can see this large blue tarp, which is my tent there, and I am just throwing everything in that tarp to make like a giant Santa bag that I'm going to carry over my shoulder with all the gear and then just repack everything later. And people are coming down to the kitchen, and then I hear Bruce say, Jeremy. I'm like, Bruce, is the moose coming? He said, yeah, it's slowly walking down the trail towards us. I'm like, everybody get back. So we all come back to the kitchen, and I'm like, instruct everyone, this is not like a bear. This is not an animal. You want to lay on the ground. You don't want to be passive. If this moose approaches you, you want to run as fast as you can. You want to find a tree. You want to climb it. And that's what you do with a moose if it's acting crazy. And so don't do what I'm about to do. So I am trying to protect the guests. I am trying to protect our gear. We have 2 more days in the backcountry, and we are in the middle of nowhere. We are 25, 28 miles from a trailhead at this point. So we have days of hiking to get out. I'm trying to protect our food, trying to protect gear, and trying to protect the people that I am in charge of. So I stand just up trail on this other side, and the moose keeps slowly approaching. And this is what I later heard the moose does. So it slowly approaches, and I do not know any of this. I'm yelling like a crazy person, have both cans of bear spray out, safety's off, pointed, screaming like I am in battle. All of the guests are 30 to 50 feet, you know, behind trees, are ready to climb up trees, and they're all screaming like they are going berserk in some war fight also. And the moose keeps coming, keeps coming. I have to step off the trail behind this fern where the guy has no the conifer where the guy has no mask on here, and I literally only have a few saplings that are as thick as these bare poles are, so just 2-3 inch saplings directly in between me and the moose. And the moose just keeps looking at me, looking at the food, and slowly coming forward. I have bear spray ready. I am about to spray. I am screaming bloody murder, and I am stomping on the ground. And I stomp And when the moose is, we're talking 10 feet away, at this point, I finally stomp once so hard and scream so loud, the moose acknowledges my stomp and it's scared. And so I stomp again as hard as I possibly can. And the moose makes a noise like, "Aww," and then he leans left and then leans right. And I have been to the Derby, my friends. This moose takes off like a Kentucky Derby champion thoroughbred, spraying mud and forest debris 15 to 20 feet behind it, and it's gone in seconds, literally. I, wide-eyed, terrified, still completely full of adrenaline, turn to the guests, and all I can think to say is, don't ever get that close to a moose, my friends. Don't ever do what I just did. And I say this to you also. Don't ever do what I just described. Now, my new modus operandi is going to say, maybe we could just let that moose have a little bit of that food for safety of myself, safety of these people. But on that day, that was the thing that seemed to be the most sense. And so I say that as a warning and as an interesting anecdote. These are not an animal that you want to mess with. Sure, they look amazing and they look peaceful animals, wild animals, nothing you want to play with. This does not make you a tough person, does not make you a smart person. Some say it makes you incredibly brave or incredibly foolish, and I think it is the latter really. Do give these animals as much space as you possibly can. They are powerful, large, and capable of hurting you. This was seen on a NatHab, both these trips actually, all three of these photos coming up. NatHab trip at Fisher Cap Lake, which many of you have seen a lot of moose with me. This is at Two Medicine at the Moose Ponds or the Beaver Ponds, and you'll see another shot of this later. And you don't ever want to get this close to moose. Of course, this is with the super zoom that I have, not a great one, but a digital one. And so please be warned, these are not an animal that you want to trifle with. Wow, that got super heavy once again. Let's take it down a little bit lighter. Let's have a little bit more fun with this story. So, title of this story is another place I love that we've talked about before: terror on the Dawson Pitamokan Loop Trail. And the Dawson Pitamokan Loop Trail, if you've seen my other NatHab webinar, it's a 19-mile loop on or around the Continental Divide. There's some cliffside trails, and on this day we have a record-setting forest fire. There's a broken toe that will show up in this one, and then at the end of the story, some horrified faces. So let's find out exactly what happened. So here we are in Two Medicine, and you can see that little strip of land there. That's where the moose were we just saw. The Two Medicine area, we come through this spot on NatHab trips, by the way. And you know, I leave this in, you know, we wake up, I think we were at Morningstar Camping Ground, but I can't remember exactly. We were in a lake in the area heading towards the Pitamokan Pass in the backcountry. And so I wake up, I'm one of those sunrise mornings where I'm by myself cooking breakfast thinking, God, guests should really be up for this. It's absolutely amazing, because those really are some of my favorite times on these trips, really. And it's not because the guests aren't there, it's because those, you know, I always say the show starts early and it goes late. You have to go bell to bell, sunrise to sunset to really see everything. And even sometimes in the middle of the night to see the great stars. And so I'm there and I am cooking breakfast by the lake and just, oh, it's so beautiful, the bright oranges of the sunrise. And then I notice these little clouds that are very strange. And, you know, we don't have access to a lot of like contemporary like radar in the backcountry. So throughout my career, I have really learned weather patterns, weather system, and learned to look for fronts. So, you know, you see some wind come in, you might be approaching front, you can see some different types of clouds, things like that. Do research on that yourself. It's very, you can actually predict weather better than most weathermen if you start to really pay attention and you know where you start and where you're in, barometer, stuff like that. So I am seeing these clouds, I'm saying, this is very strange. We do have some wind. This is a very low cloud bank. This could be a major front coming in here. We could have some snow. This is very strange. So this is also in, I believe it was early September. It was late in the season, might have been late August. I remember we had hot days and very cold nights. It's all that I remember about the exact date of this trip. And so that morning I saw these clouds, and so we had a really relaxed departure because we were only going 6 or 7 miles that day, not too much vertical gain. And so I was telling people, soak your feet in the lake. We're just gonna have a relaxed departure this morning. And so I'm prepping everybody's lunch that we're gonna have on the trail. And I noticed that little cloud bank that I'd seen has gotten much taller. It's as big as the mountains. It was actually completely obscuring the northern range of mountains that I'm typically able to see from this lake. And so I get out my sat phone, which I don't always carry, but luckily I had it on this trip. I call the main office and I'm like, yeah, this is Jeremy Covert from the backcountry. I'm seeing some strange weather patterns, some clouds. I just want to know if we have a storm coming in. And the next thing that the office worker says to me is, oh, awesome, you're at Morningstar, can you see the fire? And I'm like, oh, a fire, yes, I can. Where is the fire in relation to us? Please hurry, because sometimes the sat phones just cut out. And so we determined the fire was 17 miles north of us and west of us. We had a really strong easterly wind, so as long as we continued to go south at this moment, we were safe. But it did mean we do want to hurry because this is a fire-friendly landscape. It needs it, and it is very common for it to be there. And so I know this, and so let's just keep moving. So we get on the trail and we head out. We're heading towards this area, the Dawson Patagonia Loop. And so we are down here, this far lake that you see, just a little bit of is where we started in the morning, and then we have to hike to the left here, and then you can barely see part of the trail over there that we are hiking up. And that little wind that I was feeling down in the valley as we got up onto this ridgeline became near hurricane force winds, which is very common on the Continental Divide. That ridge you're looking at on the far left is the actual Continental Divide. So, you know, which crazy weather patterns happen when around the divide. And so I've already prepped the crew. You know, I had on this crew, we had a really experienced older gentleman backpacked around the world. He's a great person to have on the trip, especially this one. And then we had a mother with her 2 adult grown sons. And one of them, I think, was in senior year of college. The other one had just graduated high school. And so this was a celebration trip for him. What a cool kid to want to do that. Go backpacking with his mom and brother in Glacier National Park. And so the 2 boys and the gentleman were up ahead, and they were just eating it up, loving it, leaning into the wind and having a great time, high-fiving about it. But their mother not having the best time. She was having a little bit of fear. I was there with her, holding on to her backpack, saying, it's okay, just lean into the wind, you know, I'll be there, push her up the trail. She was blown off the trail 3 separate times. 2 of those times with me literally holding on to her backpack. Now, I had already explained to her just starfish, and she was blown off the trail. I'd say, starfish, starfish, starfish. And she would just, starfish, and she would just, you know, laying on the ground, and we would both laugh about it. She would kind of laugh through some tears. And, you know, there's old Buddhist saying you never fall off of a mountain because, you know, it's kind of at an angle and you just kind of roll. So you just starfish and you don't roll. And so that's what happened. And on one of those times, the wind was so strong, it took her down and off, and she was a very, very thin, small person, and took her off the mountain and actually took me down with her holding on to her backpack. But I was able to keep standing. We were laughing about it. It was fun. We get up to the top of this pass. You can see this is the same area photo here. My hiking partner from a different trip here, fiance. And so we get up into this ridge line, and it's terrifying here, as you can imagine, because that is a sheer cliff. Now, you can't fall off a mountain, the Buddhist saying goes, but you absolutely can fall off a cliff. So we are very, very careful here. We stick to the side, and we make our way through these 60-plus-mile-an-hour winds. We're terrified, but enlivened by it. And we make it down to our campsite, which is down this little ridge line. And here's the Dawson Patagonia Pass Trail, and this is where we are camping, Old Man Lake. So we go down, we have a wonderful dinner, high-fiving, you know, really bonding over this experience. And so I make dinner for everybody. We go to bed. I wake up 2:30, 2:45 in the morning. Immediately, I am in shock, and my foot is throbbing, and I am sure immediately I have a broken toe. It actually takes me a few minutes to piece together what has happened. I'm having these moment thoughts of like, did something step on me? Did a bear or a moose step on me in the middle of the night? What is wrong with my toe? I'm still completely out of it. And then I have this memory. Oh yes, Jeremy, about 45 minutes ago, you charged down to the pit toilet. And I used to do this thing and drink a lot of water on these trips. And so I'd wake up constantly in the middle of the night, have to go to the bathroom. You never wanted to go to the bathroom near your tent campsite because I could bring in a carnivore. You don't want a 700-pound carnivore sniffing around your tent campsite in the backcountry. So you run down to the pit toilet, run back up, and if you do that quick enough, you can get out of bed and get right back into bed and fall asleep. And that's what I did on this night. And I had this memory, this vague memory of running right outside my camp and really stubbing my toe and thinking, oh my gosh, that hurt so much. I ran down, went to the bathroom, ran back up, and just got back in to the bed, just thinking, oh my gosh, that hurt so much. Go back to sleep. Well, my foot swelled, my toe swelled, and immediately, you know, I've had a lot of training. I've broken a lot of appendages and digits, and I knew immediately it was broken. I did not sleep for the rest of the night, and then I wake up, and, you know, I said the morning is my favorite time. I'm always like super chipper, singing songs, you know, being like telling funny stories at breakfast. And on this morning, I'm just silently staring at oatmeal and coffee, handing them to people. And the 2 boys say, Jeremy, what's up with you? You know, typically you're so much more chipper. You sleep okay? And I say, just stoically, I think I broke my toe last night. And they start to push me on. And I'm like, I really don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it because it hurts so bad. And I knew I had this huge hike today with some serious vert. to get up and over, and I had like an 80-pound backpack to be carrying. I'm not about to give them some of my weight. So and they kind of laugh about it. One of them does catch me pouring water on my foot throughout the trip, and he's like, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "I think it's going to bring down the swelling and make my foot more numb because it's actually pretty cold in the wind." And they laugh about it. I can tell there's some sideways glances being like, did he really break his toe last night? You know, thinking about it. So we go up this nice ridge line. We're going up and over this mountain here, over several passes, Dawson, Panama, one of my favorite little trails. And we see some breathtaking stuff. From this trail, you see into these other valleys carved by these glaciers. It's just absolutely otherworldly. If it does not move you, I always say you do not have a soul. It is so beautiful there. One of my favorite all-time hikes on the planet, but definitely one of the best in Glacier. And so as we get to this far little tabletop over here, the wind has blown that mountain apart there, that's what I say, because it's a little wind tunnel that is made. You can actually see it to the right there. And that part is where it gets scary windy also. And I prepped people, said, do not go near the edge over there. I will be with you. And this is looking down on Old Man Lake. And so this is the part where it starts to get really windy. I don't let anybody go near this cliffside edge there. And at one point, for several hundred yards, we actually have to grab each other's backpacks, holding each other down, and we walk as one group across. And about here, where we saw these bighorn sheep on another trip, about here, one of the guys was in bathroom crisis, and we're still in extreme wind at this point, but it's for the first time in like 25, 30 minutes, we were able to actually stop, and he runs back around this cliff here to go to the bathroom, and I am with the woman and the boys, and at one point, you know, we're trying to talk, and it's so loud. I remember because of the wind, we have to just scream at one another, literally like faces this close. And I remember just telling each one of them, I want you to remember this moment. And I'd just taken a picture of them. I said, print out that picture and put it in your climate controlled house or office and remember this moment in Glacier. And we all laughed about it later, and they said, we are going to print that picture out and put it in our home. And this woman put it in her office, and because it was an absolutely unreal and once in a lifetime type adventure. And that's why we do these things, and that's why we seek out these places. You know, we want to do this with a professional. We want to do this safely. We never want to push boundaries. You know, but I've done this before. I knew where the windy spots were. I knew where the dangerous spots were. We acted accordingly, and we were able to make it out safely. And that's what you want to do. You want to go with somebody who knows what they're doing, or get the experience yourself and act safe, always in these moments. This is a moose from another time, but this is down near No Name Lake, which was our next, just on the other side of these trees here, our next campsite. And it was that night, as I was making dinner, my crew had gone and set up their tents, and the two boys came over and they sat down and they looked kind of mischievous, and I was like, what's going on, guys? And they were like, we want to see your foot. And I was like, you want to see my foot? I'm making you guys dinner. Trust me, I want to take the shoe off and soak my foot in the lake here, No Name Lake. You know, and he said, well, just show it to us. And I said, well, I'm about to make you guys dinner. I'll do it after there. No, we have a hand wash station. We want to see your foot right now. The older backpacking gentleman came up, and he was like, what are you guys talking about? I was like, the kids want to see my foot. He's like, yeah, we've all been talking about this. You broke your toe last night. You did that hike today with the 80-pound pack. I said, yes, I did. It was not very pleasant, I promise you. And I said, we want to see your toe. So I take my shoe off. I take the sock off. And there were absolute shrieks of horror and looks of horror on their face when they see my toe, my foot, all purple, all blue, toe extremely swollen. And there was no doubt in anyone's mind that the toe was broken, including myself. And so I say, you know, these are the types of places that we seek out for these adventures, and you want to be safe, and you want to push your own boundaries, but not too much. And you never want to carry an 80-pound backpack. I would say peak fun is about 25 to 30 pounds, you know, for a backpack. And you want to go out to these places and have these good times. And, you know, a lot of these NatHab talks, a lot of the talks that I give with people, you know, we're talking about these scientific principles and the nature and the science behind all of these animals. It's my pleasure to get to share some of these fun stories. And, you know, that's also why we go out there too. We're not just going out to have these close encounters with animals. We're going out here to have a fun time and to bring back some of your own adventure stories to share with your friends and your family and your communities. And that is the end, my friends. Thank you very much. Tales from the Dusty Trail, Glacier National Park. And I do have a couple closing comments before we take a few Q&As. And that is, I say seek out wilderness near your home. You do not have to go to the far-flung reaches of the world. Glacier, Churchill, Yellowstone, Alaska. You can do that by your house. You can do that in a cemetery near your home. You can do that walking your dog. So seek these places out several times a week. Go on big trips once a month, and then go on even bigger trips, traveling across the country or across the world several times a year. You will not regret it. It will make you a better person and a happier person. So seek out wilderness and just watch out for dehydration, sunburn, poison oak, scorpions, snakes, bears. Learn how to be safe out there. Take more photos than you think you need. And the most important thing, remember, have fun. And what I always say, people say, well, how do you do that? How do you have fun in wilderness? Well, that's going to be different for every person. But when you do go to these wild places, I end every trip that I do for the last several decades with this. You want to go to the wilderness. And when you are there, when you're surrounded by that peace, by these wild animals, by the serenity, by the creativity you get in these places, making you feel like you're a kid at Christmas. When you are there, you want to reflect on all of this stuff, on your home, on your work, on your obligations of your yard and cleaning your house and cleaning your clothes, dealing with your family, dealing with your friends, dealing with frenemies, dealing with your neighbors, stoplights, car payments, everything. You want to think about all of that mundane, personal, civilized drama that is not really important. Some of those things are necessities in life. Those things are not what define you. You are defined by your creativity, the peace that you bring with you. So when you go out to these wilderness spaces, leave a little of that civilized junk in a pile there on the trail. Not literally trash. Don't leave anything in the national parks, not even a great sculpture, anything like that. You want to only leave metaphorical little pile of trash there and take back with you. I promise the National Park Service will not care if you leave some of that metaphorical trash there. Take back some of that peace. Take back some of that creativity, some of that serenity that you find there. And, I tell people, take these pictures and hang them up at work and hang them up at your house, but bring that peace and that serenity everywhere that you go. And you can do that and share that with your friends, share that with your community, and hopefully you will inspire them to do the same thing also. Thank you, guys. Remember, if you like this story, if you want to hear more of it, I have a podcast, lifeonvacation.com. I've got a bunch of written stories. I've got photo essays. I've got a new one about the polar bear jail. I don't know if I talked about that. There are some more pictures of the Dawson Panama loop that I just posted on the website, and there's a ton of photos, and I'm constantly adding more stuff to it. And then also, if you do listen to podcasts, please do subscribe to this podcast just to support it. By just subscribing to it and having it show up however you listen to podcasts, we'll support it. And I would appreciate that, and to make this resource available to as many people out there as possible. And then do look for my book, which should be coming out soon, Life on Vacation, and the ebook also. Thank you all very much. And I am available as long as you guys are for any questions and answers.
Thank you, Jeremy. I look forward to checking out your website and your podcast. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
We've got some good questions for you, and I just want to remind everyone who's watching, if you have a question for Jeremy, you can submit those in your control panel under the questions field. And just really quickly before we get to questions, someone is who's watching today looks like maybe going to Glacier next July, and she also has a dog named Stevie Nicks.
Oh, wow. Yes, that's and Stevie Nicks came with his name. I did not give her the name, but I felt like I couldn't change it because it was too cute of a name. So nice.
It's fabulous. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so there's someone watching who wants to know what the altitude is for these hikes that you're doing.
Most of what these guys are, Glacier, 10,466 feet is the tallest mountain, Mount Cleveland, and but most of the hikes, the tallest, the highest elevation that we'll get is in the 8,000 foot range. And so it's another great thing about the park is you don't really have to worry about altitude sickness. Now, it can happen. That's about the earliest start of that is 7,000 to 8,000 feet, and NatHab does not go up that high, by the way. That is if you're going up over some of these passes or summiting some of these mountains. You can get there's like, I can't remember, 7, 10,000 footers there in the park, which I've done several of. And so really a lot of the passes are in between the 6,000, 8,000 foot range. It's not super big, but you can have some days like that Boulder Pass day. This was a rarity, and it was a scheduled change, an itinerary change actually, because we had some Colombians on that trip where the moose charged into our camp and was trying to get at our kitchen. We had some Colombians who had not gotten a visa through Canada. We were actually supposed to go in from Canada and out through the US. And so we had to do some fancy footwork that morning of the trip actually to change the itinerary. And it turned into, I think, a 19-mile day with, I want to say, like 4,000 plus feet vertical up and then like 5,500 feet down. It was a brutal day even for me. And at that point I was completely acclimated and, hiking like an Olympian. And, but that hurt me. So these guests coming in, that was a big day for us. So it's not bad in Glacier when you're doing these backcountry stuff. And that's another reason I love Glacier, is because it's so attainable for people. You don't have to have, well, the rocks there are not rock climbable. The rocks there are so old, because they came up and over, they're old and they're broken and they're really fragile. And so there's not a lot of mountaineering in the traditional, like using ropes and using harnesses and stuff. And so it's a scramble park. And so you can hike pretty much everywhere. Now, you want to bring helmets and stuff and be safe in those scenarios. You don't want to just go for it, of course. But it is a very attainable park. And most of the trails are well under 6,000 to 6,500 feet at their precipice. So, it is, it's not a super huge hike.
Okay, great. And are there plenty of hikes in Glacier for those watching who just want to do a quick day hike?
Yes, there are many. Avalanche Lake, the Highline Trail, Logan Pass. We do several. We do Logan Pass. We do Virginia Falls and St. Mary Falls. These are all very, very easy hikes. You don't have to have special gear. Just bring a sandwich and some water. Always have plenty of water. Really, hydration is happiness. There's a lot. I say the park is deep, because in my book I write, it's the trail where you can see a Continental Divide trail hiker literally hiking thousands of miles, hiking for the last 3 or 4 months, and we do daily in Glacier. And then next to them you will literally see a small child that can barely walk being pulled along by their parents, and then people who have mobility issues on some of these trails. And so obviously those people want to pick the right trails, but there are very easy trails, there are intermediate trails, and then there are the trails that are going to exhaust even people who are in really, really great shape too. So it's a park that you could tailor exactly to your skill set and your desired energy level and height.
Okay. Someone's wondering, if you encounter a moose in the forest, should you try to get between, should you try to get a tree between you and the moose? And what are some other tips if you encounter a moose on your hike?
Well, first and foremost, with seeing any megafauna like this, you want to stay back so you don't approach at all, and constantly on these NatHab trips, especially Fisher Cap Lake. You've been with me many times, a lot of my guests, and people will go beyond where we're at, and they actually ruin some of our shots because they're in the photo with the moose, but we do not approach. So do not approach these animals. And definitely having an escape route, definitely having trees that you could climb up, you could hide behind, but it's better, an ounce of prevention being better than a pound of cure. Just don't put yourself in the situation where you're going to be close enough for that moose to get freaked out and charge at you. You come close, you realize there's a moose, like when I was walking and literally I just looked to my right, there's a moose 5 feet away, literally. Now that's only happened a couple times, literally. That was my office for years, working in the backcountry in Glacier. And so that's a rarity, but you want to either keep going or immediately turn around and go the other direction. So always err on the side of caution and give these animals as much space as possible. But occasionally you do find yourself just shocking an animal like that. Always have bear spray accessible. I have one strapped to my backpack, in case I'm separated from my backpack, either at a break or through some sort of negative encounter. And then I always have one strapped to my hip, and know how to use it. And then, know the specific megafauna and how to deal with them. Like you deal with the moose differently than you deal with the bear, than you deal with a mountain lion. And so those are all different, and that skill set you learn, and it's a pretty quick acquisition of knowledge, and so basically give all of these animals a big leeway. Go in groups. 4 or more is the safe, but say you're going out with just your partner, just a friend, just both of you be aware, both of you have bear spray, both of you make noise at all times. It's great, having a loud voice, will scare away a lot of the animals that we won't even see. And I'm okay with that. Of course, I want everybody to see these animals, but I don't want to scare the animal and have them either charge at us or have a negative encounter in any way, shape, or form. And so, hope that answers the question. But yeah, definitely a tree. And it is an animal, I've had a couple friends who have had very negative encounters. Some ended up in the hospital. And a lot of the times, what happens is people will be out walking their dogs. Of course, dogs are not allowed in national parks for a good reason. They bring in a lot of germs and can attack animals, and they can be attacked by animals. And so don't do that. But just in national forests and, public land outside of these parks, I've had several friends walking dogs off leash, because that's the thing that people do, because you won't see anybody all day. And their dogs are just running, and then all of a sudden their dogs come charging straight to them and then run by them. They're looking at their dogs thinking, what's Sparky doing? What's Stevie Nicks doing there? And then they hear something and they turn around, and those dogs have just harassed a moose, and now that moose is charging, and the moose is extremely upset, and you're the slowest thing it's going to encounter. That happened to it's happened to several friends. One of my good friends was actually put in the hospital, very severely injured because of it. And so definitely in that situation, it's a run for your life. Climb a tree if you can, and don't give up. Just keep running, and so I don't want to get too negative, too graphic with anything like
that. So what are your thoughts on bear bells?
Bear bell is a little controversial in the professional world. Yes, it does make a noise, but science has proven that the best thing to scare away a bear is the human voice. And human voice may be combined with clapping and maybe a couple yell sounds. Bear bells, it's more, scientists and researchers have actually seen the bears like, what is that noise? What is that? And so they will actually go towards it, because these are curious creatures, because they have to be curious to get as much food as possible. And so also the same thing with the whistle. You'll constantly hear people with these high-pitched whistles. Well, these animals are predators of a lot of animals that also have a high-pitched whistle, like the marmots, like some ground squirrels and things like that. So I even think whistles are not a good idea. Just the good old human voice calling out, maybe singing some Neil Diamond or your favorite late 60s, early 70s singer-songwriters, and staying in a group is the best thing you can do to prevent these animals from making contact with you negatively.
All right, good advice. So what's the latest time of year you can visit Glacier before the roads start to close?
Great question. Really, I would say if you want to guarantee it, middle to end of September, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed that the road is open. We might have a rogue snowstorm come in that would close the pass, but it's typically closed for a few hours, maybe overnight, and that's just Logan Pass. But typically they will let you drive up almost all the way. And so it only affects your job if you're going up and over the whole way. And so really, I would say the end of September. Now, I have done many, many trips into early October and mid-October, and it is still open. A lot of the trails are still, that Como Pass trip that I was talking about, where the big Billy Goat had the big long, what looked like a white trench coat on earlier in the presentation. That was done like August or October 12th, I think. I just remember that because we were super high elevation, and for all of us, it was a group of guides that went, and we were all thinking, wow, this is a real rarity for us to get to hike all the way up here this late in the year. And so, I would say by the end of September. And but you can, hit end of September and early October. If you get a lucky weather window, you'll be able to go. But basically, once it gets to end of September, early October, that first big snow, they will just close the pass for good. And then even though it may be able to be open, at that point, they have to start to prepare the road and Logan Pass itself for the winter, because the next snow is going to close it down. And so they are protecting the park workers, allowing them to do their job in a timely manner and safely also.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to call it there with questions. Thank you so much, Jeremy. This is really fun. And I know I've got you on the books for a couple presentations in February, so I look forward to those as well. I am going to turn it back over to you for closing comments.
Well, thank you all very much. It has been my absolute pleasure to spend some time with you all today and to revisit. I was just telling Kendall at the beginning of this is a really fun presentation for me to put together, just telling these stories. And, once again, that's, we go out here and it's not just always a science lesson. Sometimes we just have these fun stories to take back to our friends and family. And so think about that also, your own fun stories. And I want to encourage everybody after this, maybe go outside your house right now, go for a little walk directly after this, if the weather is okay. Thank you all very much, though, for spending your afternoon with me.
Thanks again, Jeremy. This was such a fun way to start the new year, so I appreciate your time. And my thanks as well to everyone who tuned in today. Be sure to join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. We did record today's presentation, and we'll have the replay available on our website soon. And with that, I'll conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.